History gets polished, edges smoothed. But revolutions are not clean. They are born in fire, in smoke, in men who hold the line when fear claws at the ribs. Victory was not inevitable. The revolution was forged in war. But it is understood in conversation, around tables, between friends, with books open and arguments alive. This is Rogue Island, ground truth of the American Revolution.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Rogue Island. I'm your host, Ben Powers. I'm here with my co-host, Bjorn Bruckshaw, and we have a super special guest today, Grace Bruckshaw, who is an expert on the Battle of Saratoga, or the battles of Saratoga, I should say. So I can't wait to jump right into it. Bjorn, Grace, let's kick it off.
Hey, how are you guys? I'm Bjorn. This is my daughter, Grace. She's another Revolutionary War nut, just like all of us that are here. Today we're going to talk about how we went to Saratoga back in 2021. Actually, Ben and I met there. We ended up doing an archaeological dig at the Battle of Bemis Heights, and we found some pretty cool stuff. Would you say, Ben?
Yeah, we definitely did. You guys found some cool stuff. So the running joke, you'll hear this often, is about the cannonball. I was only on the dig for 2 weeks. Bjorn was there for 3 with most of the team. And the day after I left, they found a cannonball in one of the areas that we were metal detecting and digging up. So that is a lifelong regret. I was not there for that discovery.
Yeah, I do remember that because I remember texting Ben. And I'm like, "Hey, you missed out. Found a cannonball." And I had the biggest grin on my face. I'm not gonna lie, Ben. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I don't doubt it, man. That's an amazing artifact. And so Avor, I don't want to turn this into an American Veterans Archaeological Recovery advertisement, but it's a group that takes disabled veterans and brings them out to the field and trains them in archaeology in support of different conflict archaeological sites. And they did a dig in 2019 in Saratoga in support of the National Park Service, and they did a follow-on one in 2021, which, as Bjorn indicated, that's where he and I met. And that started not only a good friendship between the two of us, but a very significant interest in the Battle of Saratoga. Now, Rogue Island is a Rhode Island in the Revolution oriented podcast and YouTube channel, but we want to talk about how important Saratoga is to us today, because that led to Grace going on a pretty exciting adventure back up to Saratoga last summer. And I kind of want to segue into that. So, Grace, if you and Dad can kind of talk us through your Saratoga trip.
So what happened? So we decided on one of our vacations, right, that we would go. I was like, "Hey," and I showed her a bunch of pictures of what we did, and she was super excited. And we decided what we wanted to go to New York, right, and take a trip up that way and visit all these different sites that had that Ben and I had been to. And one of the things that kind of helped us was the day we were about to leave was the day I was informed the cannonball we found was back up at Saratoga after it had been cataloged and cleaned and whatever. So there was a perfect timing for us to go up there. And do you remember the trip?
I remember some of it, but I remember seeing the letter signed by George Washington.
Yes, that was with Chris in the evidence room, right?
And that's really cool. And the evidence room at Saratoga was probably, I mean, every day at Saratoga on the dig was exciting, but the day that Chris took us back into the archives and Chris is the archivist at Saratoga, and this was definitely in support of our work in the laboratory, and she showed us where the artifacts, once they were cataloged, and then I guess they're sent away from Saratoga to a central location for more processing. And when they're returned, she showed us where they're stored. And that's where you saw this letter signed by General Washington, Grace?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then what else?
So
what else?
And then didn't we go to the bridge?
No, well, I'm talking about so when we got there, right? One of the things that we found was a cannonball, right? So there's a picture of me holding it. And Grace got all excited about it. So we found out that it had been there. Chris graciously let us in the back. And Grace was actually able to hold that cannonball we found and something that had been fired 250 years ago.
How did that feel, Grace? What when you got to actually put your hands on that? What Can you explain what was going through your mind?
It was like I was thinking it was like very heavy, but it was like pretty cool to experience like the history behind it.
That's exciting. That's really cool.
You would never want to be hit with one of those, huh?
Oh no, I disintegrate.
What did it feel like a candlepin bowling ball? Did it feel heavier, lighter? What was it? What was kind
I
of the
felt
actual
like
physical experience?
it was like
Did you have to use two hands?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you imagine having to keep loading those ball after ball during a fight? How tired your arms would get?
I'm pretty sure my arm would fall off.
I mean, I'm pretty sure she'd be jacked too.
I bet those can guys were jacked back in the day, dragging those things
Yeah,
around.
and actually, I was just going to mention this. So right before we went to go see Chris over at the archives, Grace and I, her husband Bill, is a park ranger, right? And he graciously gave us a lesson on the cannon that they have at Saratoga. And he was talking about the different type of, you know, cannonballs, the different, like how far back they would kick and how all that stuff. You remember?
Yeah.
And he showed us
So like the grape thingy.
the grape shot,
Yeah, grape shots.
right? And then what else?
Just the thing that like they used to
The
put it up.
ramrod.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you like it? Yeah.
Yeah, Bill and Chris are national treasures, man. Holy cow. They're both
Yeah, they absolutely are.
amazing people. What was the most interesting thing you learned about the Battle of Saratoga, Grace? And this isn't a history quiz. I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what really, because I know it was like over a year ago or almost a year ago that you went, so lots happened since then. But does something stand out besides General Washington's letter, like you thought was really cool to learn or just see?
Like because I saw the house that
The Benedict Arnold,
yeah.
the headquarters over on
Yep.
the Continental Line.
It was
Very
really
cool.
Did we get to see it? Yeah.
We got to look in it. And what else? We were able to see where General Fraser had fallen,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where he was shot by. Do you remember? Do you remember the story?
Wait, yeah, because there's like
He was up in a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's like it took 3 shots and then they hit him in the back, I think.
Nope.
No,
In the chest.
in the chest, yeah.
And he was up on a horse because the British were all high and mighty and didn't want to come off the horse when people were firing at him, right?
Like he's trying
What
to command and
happened?
control his troops. He's being a good
Yeah.
officer.
Yeah, well, musket balls are flying right next to him.
He's a brave dude.
That is a very brave dude. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be up there. And what else? We went out to actually where the battle took place, right?
Yeah.
We were able to see, and she was able to see where, the militia came out of, where the Hessian troops were stationed, and where those cannons were, and we were able to show her where that cannonball was located compared to where the Hessian troops had their cannons and the British had their cannons, and then where Benedict Arnold came down. So she dug right in and was like, "This is awesome." We saw the Kosciuszko. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
He was the engineer. He was the engineer. Remember, we went over the Kosciuszko Bridge.
Wait, yeah.
And then they had the monument to him because he helped engineer the whole.
Bridge.
Well, he engineered the American defenses, Grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to say the
I-
British guy's name was Montresor. I'm not sure though. That could be a mistake. I'll have to check that out.
Kosciuszko was Prussian?
Polish.
Polish. Sorry. Yeah. That's who it was. And then not only did we get to see like the General George Washington signed letter, the cannonball, but we also were able to find some more of the other relics that we had located at the dig that time. Some musket balls. She was able to see the musket balls where it had impacted something, or where a drop musket ball. And then actually one of the coolest things was that they actually had a Native American basket that was from hundreds of years ago that you could still see like the dye from the paint on it that had flowers on it.
That's really cool. That was in the Schuyler house originally, right? Is that?
Yes. Yes.
I think,
Um,
yeah, Chris does such a great job preserving the different artifacts that are found and processed there. And it's interesting how we get focused on just those few weeks of the battle, but there's that whole rich history of that whole area that she worked so hard to preserve.
Absolutely. And it's funny because if you like go into somebody's house and you see a basket like that, you just think it's a normal basket, right? Where they
Exactly.
just kept storage, or like they're like I've heard stories where people have these artifacts where they're using it as a door stopper, right? And next thing you know, it's like this huge important thing that people didn't even realize. Um, but do you remember Saratoga was the what part? Do you remember what part of the war? That it was the
It's like
what decide after they that victory, what happened? Do you remember? Who joined the cause?
wait.
You know this. What navy joined the cause? The French, right? They
Oh
came
yes.
into
Um,
right because that was considered what the turning point of the war, right? That when they gained victory, the French were like, okay, these guys can handle themselves, right? So now we're gonna help them. We know they can win if we can
We're
help
not
them.
going to back a losing cause, but you showed us
Yeah,
something,
oh
so we're
yeah,
going to
and
jump
then
in.
Franklin tried to like convince the French to join them before,
yeah,
and then they didn't. So then after the war, they did.
There you
Wait,
go.
not after the.
yeah.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
She
yeah.
Yeah,
gets it.
she gets
So,
it.
so Grace, are you into the Revolutionary War because Dad is, or is this something that you think if Dad was not a history nerd, do you think you'd still be pestering him to take you to battlefields and things like that?
Probably.
She keeps asking me to go to the Rhode Island one. I'm like, okay, we'll go. We'll go. I'm not going in the middle of winter, but we'll go. We've been to one place that she does want to go. We actually talked about this yesterday. Is the Battle of Bennington, where you and I went, Ben.
Roger.
Where remember you? She remembered the story of a soldier that from Henniker, New Hampshire. I think I told you this, where he jumped over when Stark gave the order to attack. He jumped over the beam or the earthworks, and right in front of him was this 6'3" burly Hessian guy, and he plunged his bayonet into him. And this was a written account. He plunged his bayonet into him. They both fell. The Hessian fell backwards. The guy fell forward with his bayonet in him. And when they fell, the bayonet stuck through the Hessian into the ground. And during the battle, he couldn't get the bayonet out of the ground. So he's sitting there, and next thing you know, he has to undo his bayonet and start using his musket as a baseball club.
Oh my gosh.
So after the battle happens, is he was off telling somebody, "Oh yeah, I killed this Hessian. I stabbed him with my bayonet," and they didn't believe him. They said, "Oh, you lost your bayonet. Don't lie." So they were giving him a hard time. He's like, "No, come on, I'll show you." So about five of them come, and they shows them right where the Hessian is. They all grab the guy's bayonet and try and rip it out. They finally get it out, and they put it back on the bayonet, and it stayed in the family ever since.
Oh my
So
gosh. Well,
yeah,
you guys will
so
definitely need to get up to Bennington and check that out, or over to Bennington for you guys since you're right in the neighborhood. But you're gonna love Bennington. Your dad and I had a great time walking around there last fall.
absolutely. So Ben, I got to ask, what was your favorite part of Saratoga?
A couple different things. So my favorite part of Saratoga when we were digging together, when we were in the field, was just being able to be on the ground and be able to make sense of things that I had read. And now being on the ground to actually see how the terrain actually unfolded and be able to picture, okay, now I can understand if I'm standing in Barbara Wheatfield, the direction that Morgan's men came from, the direction that the militia under Learned Poor came from. As you said, where the Hessian gun batteries might have set up, things like that. So just physically being in the field and getting to see all that when we did the dig. When you and I took our road trip last fall, I think my favorite part was when we hit Bennington. That was just being able to see a different battlefield and again, it's always about walking the terrain and being able to visualize what happened. But whenever I can add a new location to our adventures, that's always huge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. When Ben and I did our road trip, we ended up going to Saratoga. Ended up going to the Schuyler House as well, but unfortunately, that was closed due to the government shutdown. Um, I think for me, the two best places that we went were the monument for the Battle of Pines Bridge and being able to see the Davenport House, and then Francis Tavern.
Francis
That,
Tavern was awesome.
that to me was, I mean, to think that those guys were in there partying, right? They had the wine glasses, right? From was it von Steuben?
Yep, von Steuben's traveling liquor
Yeah.
cabinet.
Yeah, that's what it was. And it was sitting right there. And to know that these guys were sitting in here drinking, celebrating something that they fought for many years to achieve. And they had finally achieved it against massive odds, against this massive army that it was a professional army that knew how to fight, right? And these,
Exactly.
what do they call them? These farmers with pitchforks come out and they stop this army and actually gave other countries in this world a reason to say, hey, there is hope that we can stop these British. There's hope that everybody can do what they want with their own country. They can live free. They can do all this stuff. And that's why the French joined, right? They joined the cause because they believed in it. They saw what the Americans could do. And they were like, we got it. We know you could fight now. We're going to help you. Not only that, but the Spanish as well.
Very, very, very true. Yeah. And that's just it. Also, Francis Tavern for me represents, like you said, initially it's an unorganized farmers with pitchforks, but it's a professional force by 1783. It's a legitimate army. It's the origins of the army that produced you and me. And I think it's that kind of feeling of connection is pretty fantastic.
Absolutely. And the fact that the Sons of Liberty met there, right? Sons of Liberty met there. And to really, like when you go in, and if you guys haven't been up to Francis Tavern, I highly recommend. Was it 3 floors?
Exactly.
3 stories?
They got a
3 floors?
museum on the top, and yeah, and even the places where you sit and eat is a museum. Grace, we're gonna have to take you there sometime, kid.
Yeah, absolutely. We're planning another one. We're going up May 2nd.
Oh, awesome.
So we're doing the Pines Bridge Memorial.
Awesome. Hopefully you guys can get in town and get to Francis Tavern for dinner then. That would be amazing.
Oh, we are. Yeah, it's one of the things, and it's almost like you could feel like how special that place was and how connected to history it was. And to know that that place still exists today, because we did go by a bunch of places that just had plaques on them. Right?
Exactly. Very, very true.
That they're no longer, what was it, Washington's headquarters at one point, the mansion. It's now this big office building.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is, Grace had talked when we had talked about the Skylers. Well, we also were, where did we go? Remember when I told you when Ben and I we went to go see who married Skylar? Do you remember? There you go. Right. So we went to the graveyard of Alexander Hamilton. We saw his grave, and we also saw Skylar's daughter, who was married to Alexander Hamilton. So, was it Elijah? I don't know.
Eliza, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Eliza, look at her. She's got it.
She's doing great.
So yeah, I think Sarah, between our trip, Ben, and Grace and I's trip in 2021, Saratoga just leaves a mark on you, right?
Absolutely, no doubt.
And even, when we found the cannonball, yeah, it was just like overwhelming, but it comes down to even finding the smallest shoe buckle or a musket ball that had been fired, right? And an impact of something. That right there is history.
Exactly.
Because that musket ball was impacted, but what did it hit? Was it a soldier? Did he survive? You know what I mean? So that stuff you dig up, it's like, this hasn't been seen 200 some odd years, right? You're sitting here holding it.
Exactly. It gives you that really sense of connection.
Yeah. And so at the end of our time in 2021, we had that classroom. I don't know. Oh, you weren't. Sorry, I didn't mean it. You weren't there. We had that classroom where Meg ended up doing this, slideshow where she was able to mark all the musket balls that had been fired. And on this map that she created and marked with all, you could see where the militia lines were firing at the Hessians and at the British and where they were coming out. there were straight lines. And it was just like you look at it and you're like, first of all, why are they in straight lines? I would never sit 30 feet away from the enemy and fire. But it was amazing to see the direction they were going. So even with that, it's just unbelievable that that's what you can do today.
Yeah, that's
And you get a
that,
better
and it's just
understanding.
to be able to compare that with the primary sources when people are talking about the fight, and now we've got empirical evidence, we've got statements from the people who were there. You can compare them, and you can really create a sense of what it was like. And it's just that's why we do this stuff, and it's just so cool that there's groups like Avar and people like Meg Waters and people like you guys, the Bruckshaw family, who are making all of this happen. So it's really exciting. So Grace, are you coming to history camp with us this summer?
Yeah, she will be. She will be. Well, she knows that you and I are giving a great speech on who?
It's in
There
agreed.
you go.
Exactly. There's our
Uh,
Rhode Island connection for the episode.
absolutely. But Grace, you did a couple projects in history.
I did the Battle of Bunker Hill.
You did the Battle of Bunker Hill. Why don't you tell us one? I know it's kind of off the topic, Saratoga, real quick, but we went to history camp last year because we saw Ben speak, correct? Right? Remember that? Well, during that time, we went to go hear about a story about Dr. Joseph
Oh
Warren.
yes, guys. Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that and what we learned?
So wait.
What? So when the story of was he was killed at Bunker Hill, right?
Yeah.
But they really didn't know how he ended up dying, right? So when they exhumed his body and they did a scan of his skull, what happened? What did they find out?
It was like a musket ball,
Right through
uh,
under his eye cheek,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what do you remember what happened? Do you remember the story behind it? Where the officer's assistant, I think it was,
Yeah, the officers took it.
took the
Took the general.
no. He
Okay.
took the offer. The assistant took a pistol, right?
Yeah, the assistant took a pistol, and it was like 10 feet away.
Close to
Yeah,
it.
close to 10 feet away, and he shot it at Dr. Joseph Warren, and I hit him right here.
And he died instantly,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
what happened to the assistant? You remember?
Oh yeah, two.
He was cut down,
Yeah,
right?
he's cut into pieces.
Yeah, he was cut down. Well, he wasn't cut into pieces. He was just so what they say is cut down. He was killed, right, by the men behind him, and that kind of put a big hurt on the Americans because Dr. Joseph Warren was one of their leaders, right? And you know, having also been out, you could chime in on this if I'm wrong, but Dr. Joseph, they didn't really know the real cause of death of Dr. Joseph Warren until, you know, from what we learned and from my understanding is that that musket ball ended his life, and that was the story that they got of how Dr. Joseph Warren died.
No, exactly. And I remember the speaker at history camp had done was a medical doctor as well as a historian and author, and he had done sort of a forensic analysis based off information that the family had provided in order to come up with that sort of definitive conclusion. Because there was a bunch of different stories surrounding the death of Warren. Because as you said, he was an important guy, very important political figure in pre-Revolutionary War Boston, and very active in the Patriot cause. So the interest in his death was a big deal. He was a martyr, and you and I have had a debate before. Was he more useful as a dead martyr, or would he have been more useful as a live leader post the Battle of Bunker Hill?
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at the propaganda value of it, right? I mean, I know you and I talked about it where, well, you got to look at the long term. And I think you're right in the sense that he would have he was a great leader, number one, but over time, he would have been an amazing general.
I think so.
Right?
I mean, just he was not a man of war. He was a doctor, obviously a medical doctor, but he understood people, and he understood how to learn. So I imagine he almost would have been, this is pure speculation, but another Nathaniel Green type, where he would have been able to learn from his experiences in war and from books. And I think he would have been able to provide good combat leadership. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that. I mean, he was very patriotic. He was very patriotic
Absolutely
to
no
his
doubt.
country. Um, but he did it in a manner that was, I guess you could call it gentlemanly back then, right?
Oh,
He
very much
didn't,
so.
right? He conducted himself professionally. He wasn't out being one of these, Delancey's cowboys or, what do they call the American ones?
The Skinners.
The Skinners. That's it. Yep. So he was conducting himself professionally. He would tell people that, hey, we're not going to be brutal. We're going to win this the way we should properly. We're not going to go steal things and rampage and, ravage everything. He was a professional man. Um, and, I want to go back to Saratoga real quick. And then you and I went to the surrender site. I
Yes.
apologize. The surrender site. And to see where that was, and then you could just look over this like area and you could see everything, and to think that thousands of British troops were right there, you know, how does that make you feel to see that type of stuff, to be there?
No, exactly. To me, again, it just made me feel connected and to understand what was actually accomplished at Saratoga. The first surrender of a British army in the North American continent is a big deal to the Americans, and it's that though it was I almost don't have the words for how powerful that move was.
And it's remarkable that turning point started a soon to be country, right?
Exactly.
Right. That was Benedict Arnold's last hurrah before he turned coat, and that's where he was shot in the leg, and uh, he also disobeyed orders to go and fight, right? So in some way, we owe him gratitude, but like his monument, the only gratitude we owe him is his left leg. Right?
We're gonna have to do a whole separate episode on that one, brother. But
Yeah.
I
No, he
look
was
forward.
from Rhode Island. Well, he had family from Rhode Island, so he.
So yeah, because I think he actually joined from Connecticut, but Roger, he had family connected to Rhode Island. We'll figure out a connection, but we'll do a Benedict
His
Arnold
his
episode.
grandfather was a governor or something like that.
There we go. And
All
if
right.
we'll have to, well, we're going to have to figure out how to get past all the government rules about hosting Park Service employees.
I
Because
know.
I would love to have Bill and Eric on to have that conversation. Eric
Absolutely.
Schnitzer is another national treasure, and I would very much like to have him on to have some conversations about this. So anyway, we're running out of time, and we want to wrap this up. At Grace, it's been a pleasure to have you on Rogue Island today. I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to seeing you again this summer at History Camp, and your dad and I are planning a couple other things that weekend too. Since we're going to be in Boston and the surrounding countryside to see some really cool stuff. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for some mini road trips.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Outstanding. So guys, thanks for joining us again on Rogue Island. I'm Ben Powers, and I'm here with my co-host Bjorn Bruckshaw and the incomparable Grace Bruckshaw. Thanks for coming out today. Bjorn, take
Have a
us
good
out, brother.
one. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you like our episode. And next time, we'll see you again. Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye.